Welcome to another episode on Straight Like That, the podcast, hosted by me, Camille, Instagram's favorite half brown boy. I got to shout out the sponsor real quick, Rory Love and Company, little candle wax and room spray company based in New Orleans. Great little candle. It's got a very long burning timeline, about like 55 hours or something like that. Organically made, handmade by Miss Nadia over here. Yeah, go check out the link in my bio. Go ahead and get, your friend, your family members, a loved one, a little token of appreciation, if you will. All right, but let me go ahead and introduce my man, Eric Rossitch, North Carolina's finest, currently in Seattle, knows a lot about the game, man. Eric, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Camille.
No
Yeah,
problem.
can I do guests get a candle as well?
Yeah, hey, I'll ship one out, bro. Just send me the address. I got you.
Love a candle. Love
But
a
yeah,
candle.
let's get straight to it then, bro. So why soccer? How'd you get into it? I'll talk about the youth, all that.
Why soccer? Yeah. I think it's funny, like my dad will tell me because I don't remember I started playing when I was, 3 or 4, but I don't remember I kind of remember the first team I was on, like the jerseys and stuff, but I don't really remember like the actual experience. But my
Hmm.
dad told me that I wouldn't join unless he coached the team.
Okay.
And like I just like refused. I think my brother wanted to play, but like I didn't really want to play, and he coached it. And then so it's just funny now that like I wouldn't play unless my dad coached, and he ended up coaching that first team, and now it's been my entire life,
Yeah, look at that little decision right there.
right?
Life changing.
Um, yeah. So I think it's just always clicked with me. Like I've always loved the belonging, like the community within the soccer world, and the fact that it's a team sport. I love being around people. I love being able to like rely on each other, like have each other's backs. I think the creativity of the sport, like I love the creativity, like what the way you get to manipulate the ball and be deceptive and all of that. Like I think that's fascinating. I think the euphoria around a celebration of a goal, right? And around fans and stadiums and how people can come together for a big moment, right? I think that is it's just really special, and how like you can
Yeah, for
connect with
sure.
someone that maybe doesn't speak the same language, right? Or lives in a different community or, whatever it might be. Like, I was lucky enough to go to Europe a few times when I was younger with my family, and like, there were always people playing the streets, like little fields everywhere. And like we could like just step into, and people would invite us to come in and like, just play for like a little small-sided game, pickup game and whatnot. It was just part of the culture. And it was like I thought that was so cool. It's like we don't even speak the same language, and
Right.
yet like we're connecting here,
Exactly, bro. It's a
like we're,
beautiful game.
yeah, so yeah, it's always been a special thing in that way, and it's just kind of always offered me community and close relationships, and a place where I feel safe, a place where I can always go to rely on people. And I think everyone needs that. Belonging is such um a human need, right? And I think like soccer's fortunately offered me that, and so that's why I've stuck with it, because I want to offer other people that too, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. We'll get into that a little later on how you're giving back to the community right now over in Seattle. But go ahead and speak on about your your time playing in club soccer, middle school, high school. You can go ahead and talk about like recruiting. Did you have like, dreams of playing in college or
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think most people who play at least at a high level, like when they're younger, like pro is the goal, right? And
Of
they're like, oh,
course, bro. I
can't
thought
wait
I'd
to
be in
play on
Europe
those
right
fields.
now.
But and I think like the more you get older, the like you realize like it's not necessarily about like whether that dream comes true, but it's about like what chasing that dream like brings you,
Right.
like what that journey brings you, like all the ups and downs that come with it, all the people that come with it, all the experiences that come with that, whether that actually happens or not.
Hmm.
I mean, it's so cool if it does actually happen for those people that it does, like amazing, right? What they've done to achieve that, amazing, right? The things that, I think it's you create your own luck in that way, right? And it's really cool, but I think it's about that journey. So yeah, I've played soccer ever since I was, 3 or 4. Got into competitive club soccer, I think around U9, and never looked back. I mean, I just loved it. Always thought about soccer. Couldn't wait to get out of school to like run to training. To
Yeah.
get home, play it. Juggle more in my
Yeah.
backyard and play 1v1 against my brother and play FIFA. And
Hmm.
I was so excited whenever, NBC Sports landed the big deal with Premier League, and like, we were then able to, watch Premier League, and the World Cup was more broadcasted everywhere, and like being able to like actually watch the game whenever I wanted, like that was amazing, and like so my childhood was definitely, dominated by the sport of soccer, right?
Right.
So yeah, ended up I did want to play in college. I did go kind of through the college recruiting process. It was very different then than it is now. Now players have film and they can create highlight reels really easily. They can connect with coaches really easily via a bunch of different platforms. It's not just email now, right? And
Hmm.
there's just a lot more kind of connection, and that wasn't necessarily kind of the same process when I was growing up and when I wanted to go to college. But I did get some looks, at the Division 3 level and at the smaller Division 1 level, and my family. A lot of my family went to University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, so that was always my dream school. I wanted to play there, right? But
Hmm.
I never got recruited there, and I think whether that was athletically or I wasn't on the right team, or maybe I just wasn't at that level at the time. I didn't get recruited there, so I still applied, still thought it might be a place that I would want to go. And my brother was there at the time, and he was playing club soccer, which is, for people that don't know what that is, it's almost like the JV team at the school. If they don't have a varsity sport within that sport, it's actually kind of the varsity sport, right? Because it's the only real sport that's
Right.
offered. That's still, you're representing the school. You're still playing other universities. It's still organized, competitive sport, but it's just not as much of a commitment, right? And you don't have necessarily the resources. So, it comes with its own challenges, but it's still, especially at a, university like North Carolina, it's a big school. So our club team was, comprised of everyone that either wanted to play, or could play at a college, right, at the Division 1 level, or maybe they came in and transferred from another school that they didn't, you know, didn't care for, or they didn't fit in,
Right.
or whatever it might be. And so it was still like a really, really good experience in that way. And I think the whole college recruiting process is interesting. Now me being a coach, like I really like to emphasize to all my kids that it's not, you can get, this Division 1 level can get sensationalized, right? And it's about finding the right spot that's for you, whatever you're looking for in a school, what that culture looks like, what the coach looks like, what the enrollment looks like, what city it's in, what is the size of the school, what majors does it offer, what
There's a
kind
lot of
of,
factors.
so many factors, right?
Hmm.
And unfortunately, like when, it's been kind of just in the culture that like, oh, you got to seek Division 1. If you want to play at the pro level, you got to seek Division 1. If you want to go far, you want to be better, like seek Division 1. And like, the reality is a very small percentage of players anywhere where they go to college, right, are going to play pro. And so
Right.
it's about finding the right spots for them. And I think it was like 10 or 11 players on my club team from high school go and play, at the Division 1 level. And I think it was one of them graduated and played all 4 years at the same university. And
Yeah.
that was the story on my team. And it was a story for a lot of other teams as well. And my brother's team as well. And it was like, you know, it's about finding the right school that's right for you. And it's about finding the program that's right for you. And for me, my brother was playing at UNC, the club team at the time, and was, training with the UNC women's team as well. And I was able to go to games, and I thought it was competitive, and I liked the level. And then, the fact that he was able to be part of like one of the most historic programs in NCAA history in the UNC women's soccer program, I thought that
Yeah.
was just like the coolest thing ever, right? Because I grew up a massive UNC fan, a massive UNC soccer fan, and I
Right.
thought that was just like I was like, what a cool opportunity that I could possibly have. So ended up going to UNC, and then of course cost too, and like that's another thing,
Yeah.
right? Like that's a whole
Yeah.
other conversation of cost of
Yeah. Yeah.
education.
Yeah.
But in-state UNC, great school, and I was like, wow, I'm privileged to be able to go there. All right, I'm gonna do it. So I ended
Right.
up going there and tried out for the club team because you still got to try out too. There's hundreds of kids that come out at the beginning of the year for 20 to 30 spots. And at every year, actually, there's less than that, right? Because there's only 20 or 30
Right.
spots on the team. So it's about,
Right.
yeah, maybe 5 to 10 at best.
That's crazy.
So it's really tough. But through that experience, I was fortunate to make the team, and then through that experience, I have some of my best friends in the world from there. And then being able to work with the UNC women's program as well, being just part of that and experiencing the setup and the competitiveness and the professionalism that is within that program. Again, met some of my best friends through that, and yeah, I think like I wouldn't take any of it back. Not that I wouldn't have fit anywhere else at another program or whatnot, but man, like, it's all led me to where I am now, and I'm very, very happy, and I feel fortunate to be where I'm at right now. So
Yeah, for sure. So go ahead
yeah.
and talk about exactly like what would you be doing when you're practicing with the women's team over there. And I guess also kind of give more of an insight about like the travel for your club team. I know you guys were playing in different tournaments, y'all were playing against different schools, so I guess, give more information about that for people who don't really understand what club soccer is at, big time universities.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think thanks for asking that, because I think it's something that I like to talk to my kids about too, because I think it's the club programs are inconsistent across the country.
Right.
You kind of have to do a little bit of research. At the bigger schools, there's going to be more funding, there's going to be a bigger pool of players, so it's likely going to be more competitive, it's going to be more serious. You're going to get to travel more, all of that. At the smaller schools, it might not be that. So, it is inconsistent in that way, but I think if you do find the right program, it is really cool. It is a great experience to be able to continue competitive soccer and have it as a big part of your life and a big part of your college experience, but it also doesn't dominate at all. And
Right.
you're able to still, maybe play at a different club sport, or get involved in other organizations, or if you have to work, right? And it doesn't necessarily like dominate every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
But with it comes its own challenges, like you're not fully, most clubs aren't fully funded by the university. So you got to do fundraising,
Hmm.
most club programs don't have coaches. So you're almost like, you're running it within, or you have a player coach, and it's tough to be a player coach and be a captain, and
Right.
to run all of that. And then, you got to organize travel logistics and all of that. So you're almost like a team admin and a team parent. And it's yeah, with it comes its own challenges. But I was fortunate to be president and co-captain in my senior year. And again, it was probably one of my like favorite experiences ever. And it probably, it made me grow, and it challenged me in really great ways. And really proud of kind of where we pushed the program. When I got there, it was pretty high level. It was pretty serious, and then kind of took a couple of years where, we, I guess, the leadership kind of fell off a little bit, a commitment fell off a little bit, and we were kind of like, there's no reason why we shouldn't be, qualifying for nationals every year with the amount of talent that we have within this group.
Yeah.
And so the way it would work is we don't really have an ACC conference, because ACC is all the way down the coast, and we just don't have the funding to travel all up and down,
All
right? But
yeah.
so our conference would be primarily comprised of like North Carolina, South Carolina teams.
Okay.
And the governing body is NIRSA, NIRSA. That's the national governing body, so it's not NCAA, it's NIRSA. And so we'd have our North Carolina, South Carolina kind of conference, and then through your conference play, and through some tournaments that you play throughout the year, you're then ranked, and then you qualify for regionals based on your ranking. So we would qualify for regionals every year, but then when you get to regionals is where like the competition starts to come in, right? Because now you're
Right.
playing the bigger schools. Now you're
Hmm.
playing the FSUs, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Virginias, the Virginia Techs. Right now we've got all the ACC schools, the SEC schools, the big schools that are going to be competitive, that have that pool of players. So that was always really fun. Like that's where the real competition kind of came in.
Hmm.
And yeah, we were fortunate. Our senior year, we were able to qualify for nationals, and I had a heck of a run while we were there. So that was in Phoenix. So we had to fundraise to get there,
Right.
to make sure that we could pay our way and not be in huge debt or whatnot.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
so we are able to do that, and that was to this day one of the best experiences ever. And there is where the real competition, right? We're playing like the best teams in the country, the big schools in the country. It was some are fully funded by their university, like BYU. They're basically a varsity program. They've got a coaching staff, all this stuff. So
Damn.
that was a really, really cool experience. And, we were able to actually beat Penn State in the final and ended up winning the national championship, which is just like,
Wow.
yeah, to this day, my finest memories for sure. And it was just kind of cool the journey that we took to get there, to kind of revamp the club program, to revamp the commitment, to get us back to the intensity level and the commitment level that we needed to ultimately like bring the team together and be a cohesive unit and push on. Like that's what I remember, right? It's not
Yeah.
necessarily the one moment on the field. It's like that whole journey, like me working with our
Yeah.
co-captain, working with the other leadership, our us seniors, and like knowing what we wanted to do and where we wanted to go, and then following through with it. Yeah, it was just a really special experience.
Yeah. And then accomplishing the mission too. Y'all won the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, it was cool. It was
Yeah.
really
So
cool.
while practicing and stuff, so you were also practicing with the women's team. So was that because you guys were on the club team?
Yeah, so for a long time now, Anson Dorrance, the head coach of the UNC women's soccer program, longtime head coach. He's kind of always done that. I don't know how far back, but he's kind of for a long time invited men into the environment to just help with the physical challenge and just provide a different level of physical challenge for the program. And
Mm,
he's found that has helped increase the competitiveness, increase the just provide a different type of competition for his
yeah.
for his players. And he started that a while back. And so usually that, yeah, stems from the club team because you've got, competitive players that have been around the game for a long time that are, professional, that are going to, act in a professional manner, that are going to, give it their all and be mindful of the space and all of that. So, yeah, there's players that usually come in every year to help out with the program and to provide that competition. Could usually come from the club team.
Okay. And y'all would be what, mainly like doing 11v11, or would y'all go in on like, small sided games or rondos or all like that?
Kind of all of it, yeah. I mean, we
Okay.
kind of would step in where we were needed, step in. The spring was super fun. Like, could do like futsal tournaments, and they would like draft teams, and so every team would be like comprised of, two male players, and then six or seven of the players on the team, and like it'd be this giant futsal tournament throughout the whole spring, like this league and all of that, and so
Yeah, yeah.
it would be just super competitive. He calls it the competitive cauldron. The way they track stats and they track everyone's wins and all of these, and that's how they track that data, and then they compare that data to basically rank everyone. And that's kind of been Anson's system for like a really long time to basically inspire that competition within the team.
Yeah, for sure. So you graduate. Did you know you wanted to be involved in soccer in some form?
When I graduated,
Yeah, from UNC. Did you know you wanted to be involved in the game somehow? Like, what was your thoughts about, post grad life?
yeah. So when I was there, I like again, my brother was an exercise sports science major, focused on sport admin, and like I thought that was cool, but I don't really know what that means, like, and I
Yeah.
was like, I don't know what I want to do. I just love the sport of
Yeah.
soccer, and I know that it means a lot to me. I know that it's growing in the US and I want to be a part of it. I just don't know like how
Right.
or what I would contribute, right? I just don't know, right? Because if I'm not a pro player, then like, how do I get involved? What do I do?
Right.
So at one point I kind of just like blindly reached out to it was like the president of the sports business club. And I was just like, hey, can we get lunch? Like I don't know what I'm doing.
This is a while at
And
UNC, right?
this is while I was at UNC,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And yeah, his name was Miles, and was able to meet up with him, and he was so kind to give me his time and just kind of walk through like what he was looking at, the experiences he had, like the different opportunities within the sports, landscape, and that was really cool. And he kind of like turned me to a professor that had an internship available for me, and then like that kind of all spiraled basically into I was able to get an internship with soccer.com over the
Okay.
summer of 2014, so during the World Cup, which was really cool because we had a lot of initiatives around that and got to work with all the brands, Puma, Nike, Adidas. It was Yeah, it was really cool. It was eye-opening to what that sports business realm can offer. So I did marketing and social media for them, and kind of continued that through the rest of my college career, kind of on like a part-time basis. So I would do, content and product reviews. So I would test cleats, test materials, right? Test the gear and equipment, and then write reviews about it, do videos about it. So that was a cool experience. I think I knew that, like, being on camera and stuff like that, it wasn't something I wanted to do. But
Hmm.
I did like, sharing the story of sport, right? And then, just, helping to explode the, soccer around the US. Like, I loved helping to grow that, because when I was growing up, the Eurosport magazine was like my favorite thing in the world, right? You
Of
couldn't
course,
get
I
soccer
remember
gear
that.
anywhere. You couldn't
Yep.
get it anywhere, right? The only place to get it was Eurosport, this catalog
Yep.
that would come once a month. So every day we're getting home,
Hmm.
and my brother and I are just like, is it here yet? We check the mailbox, we'd look at the mail,
Yeah.
and if it wasn't there, we'd be like, none of this is for us, right? But then the day
Right.
it was there, we'd be like, oh, this is so cool. There's pictures in here of Leo Messi. Like, that doesn't
Hmm.
happen, right? Like, we couldn't find pictures anywhere, right? We didn't
Right.
get that level of content. So it was like the pictures, the stories, like the actual the cleats, the new gear, like all of that was in there, and we would just revel in all of it. We just thought that that was the
Hmm.
coolest stuff ever.
For
So
sure.
then being able to like work for soccer.com, which was formerly Eurosport, right?
Right. Right.
Like, that was just like almost like a dream come true. Like, it was like, whoa, that's crazy, right? Be
Yeah, it's
part of
coming full
that.
circle.
Yeah, it's crazy, full circle. So that was really cool. It's a cool experience. And then through that, kind of worked with a few different organizations and soccer organizations, and then was able to kind of, get my foot in the door and show what I could do, and was able to get a job down in Atlanta with Atlanta United, which at the time was an MLS expansion franchise. So I was there. The first season was in 2017, but I went down there in 2016. So before they could set up anything, right? I got there, and it was really cool to be just part of like a club literally starting from nothing.
Right.
Um, and then to get like, 55,000 people, a full stadium out to our first game. Like, I mean, that night still gives me chills, just like thinking about we've got like, little video recaps and stuff from it. I'm just like, whoa, like,
Hmm.
that is crazy how far this sport has come in this country, and to be like walking around, and you've got Atlanta United jerseys and t-shirts, and people
Hmm.
around, they're like, oh, did you go to the United game this weekend? Like, it was just something else. And I was fortunate to be able to surrounded by like a lot of brilliant, brilliant people, and mentors, and learn just so much from that experience. And just being around the professional game, and that professional level, like, it was really special. It was really cool.
So, what in particular were you doing for the club?
Yeah, so I worked in kind of marketing and digital content. So, I was in charge of doing, working with a lot of the storytelling, the social media, the photography, and just really marketing that club and within the Atlanta area, and just kind of announcing, who we are, this is what we do, this is why we're here. And
Hmm.
I thought that was, yeah, it was a really cool experience. Learned a ton. And we were fortunate to be able to be part of a really successful launch MLS franchise. And
Yeah.
we had a lot of resources behind us. Arthur Blank owns the Falcons as well in Atlanta. And
Hmm.
so we were able to really launch ourselves into the community with proper funding, proper resources, and just some really brilliant people that had some really, really great ideas. It was just a perfect storm of things. And it was just, yeah, it was really cool to be a part of that. And then we were able to be successful on the field too with Tata Martino, and to be part of the MLS Cup winning season was really special. In just 2 years, that's really crazy.
Oh,
So yeah, that was awesome.
you were working there when they had won the cup.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was there from 2016 to
Ooh.
2019.
Okay, you were
Uh,
MLS champ, man. You were MLS champ.
Yeah, it was no, it was really cool, and I was really fortunate to be part of the experience, be part of a fun culture, and some really great people around me. So anyways, I yeah, kind of shortly after that, so shortly after the cup, I was kind of just feeling like I just knew that, like, that wasn't where I wanted to be forever. It was just kind of
Okay.
mix of things, like where I was, the stuff I was doing. I was like, I'm close to the sport, but it's not exactly what I want to be doing. And I was
Okay.
kind of burnt out a little bit. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. So I just kind of felt burnt out. I was ready to get out. I grew up in the Southeast, so I was kind of like, at one point I knew I wanted to get out and go somewhere else, whether it was a different country, a different part of the country. And so, in the spring of 2019, I was kind of like looking around and I was like, all right, maybe I'll go back to school. Like maybe I'll find a different job. Like I'm not sure. And, I was looking at Seattle because my cousin lived up there and I'd been up there a few times for work, traveling with United. And
Mhm.
I knew that Pacific Northwest was somewhere that like I could see myself, exploring for a bit. And so I was looking up at schools up there and was able to find a master's program. It was at the University of Washington called the Communication Leadership Program, and I thought it was just a good draw for me because it's pretty um, open and flexible. In terms of the commitment level, in terms of the courses offered. And I was like, all right, well, I'll go back to school and there I can kind of figure out where I want to go next. And so I ended up applying, was able to get in, and yeah, that's kind of snowballed into where I'm at now. So I ended up moving up to Seattle for that. So I finished up my master's program back in 2021, but while I was there, it was really cool. I was surrounded by some just like really amazing people, some really motivated people, some people that, like want to change the world. And it's cool to be kind of in the Pacific Northwest and the Seattle area where people are really, involved in the community and like, want to
Mhm.
be activists, in whatever realm that they care about, that they believe, needs to be changed or, needs to improve for the better, or needs to change in order to improve the world. And I think that, it's really inspiring when you're around a lot of people like that. Then it makes you like kind of look inward and you're like, well, what do I really care about? Right. Like, and what am I,
Right.
what am I fighting for every day to benefit the world, like to benefit the areas that I really care about and that mean a lot to me. And, while I was in school was when US soccer um released their deposition. So the women's national teams have been fighting for equal pay for a long time. And I think it was beginning of 2020, they came out and US Soccer said, their justification for not, paying them equally was that the men's game required more skill and required more responsibility and required more work than the women's. And it was like, how misogynistic can you possibly be?
Yeah,
Right?
in public too with it.
Like it
Yeah.
was wild. And I mean, I was already doing some gender inequity studies, but like at that point I was like, whoa, like this can't be true, right? Like this can't be happening, right? Like something's got to change. So that kind of sparked a fire in me. And like I'm fortunate to I've been surrounded by a lot of strong women my whole life. And my mom was a collegiate athlete and I was, coached by women and trained by women. And so I grew up in this environment where, women's sports was a normal thing for me. Like
Mhm.
women having access to sports, women being encouraged to play sport. Like that was a normal thing for me in my
Right.
community, right? So I was kind of, in my naivety, like, and I was blinded by only my own bias, right?
Right.
But when you actually look at like the history around women's sport and like the underinvestment, the under resourced, they're underfunded, and it's like it's wild, when you actually step back and you look at the inequity. Because when I was growing up, you kind of look at, whether it was high school sports or whatever it might be, or the women's professional leagues, and you're like, oh, like no one's showing up. You're like, oh, well, it must not be popular. Like people just don't like it. Right. So, but that's our naivety when we're younger and we don't
Yeah.
really know about the world yet. Right. And we haven't been taught things like, you don't know what you don't know. And so at that time, you're like, well, it just must not be popular. And like, well, the commercial value is higher for men's sports. But then you actually look into the history of it. And the way I like to describe it to people, because I love having this conversation, because a lot of people will still kind of make that argument. Well, the men's sports have higher commercial value because more people go to games, more people watch it, all this, right? Well, imagine this scenario, right? Imagine this metaphor. So there's two sandwich shops, right, on the street. One shop has been open for hundreds of years. They have the best chefs in the world. They have enough money and funding to fund multiple employees, right? They have the freshest ingredients. They have a great infrastructure, right? They have a great building, brand new branding all over. It's nice. It's a nice facility. Down the road, you've got signs, right? You've got all the radio ads. You've got all the TV ads. You've got the nicest, menu on the street, right? On the other side, the other sandwich shop hasn't been allowed to open for hundreds of years, right? They don't have enough resources to hire enough people to serve, breakfast, lunch, dinner like the other place does, right? They don't have the resources to get the precious ingredients. They don't have any radio ad. They don't have signage down the road. They don't have the TV ads that the other sandwich shop has had for years. Which sandwich shop do you think sells more sandwiches?
I mean, yeah, I would assume
Right?
the other one, right? But
So so it's like people are sitting here comparing the commercial value of these two entities, and one has been invested for hundreds of years and resourced and funded for hundreds of years, and one hasn't.
yeah,
And yet they're like, well, no one's showing up to these games or no one's watching the games.
there's a deeper
And
reason
it's
behind
like,
it.
well, how many people know about it?
Yeah,
How
exactly.
many stories have been told? Right?
Yeah,
How many resources have been put towards women's soccer? Of course, more people are going to watch this. Of
yeah,
course, football and men's basketball are the revenue generating sports in collegiate sports because they've been marketed and funded for a long time, right?
yeah,
And so I think it's like when you come to that realization, when you actually look at the history of gender inequity within sport, you're like, whoa, it all makes sense. And it's so wrong. It's so wrong. There was a recent tennis player, and I don't remember his name, but there was a Players Tribune article on him, and he said, "I hate when people are like, we need to reduce the gender gap within sport." And it's like, how about we get rid of it? How about we get rid of the gender gap? How about we equally invest, right?
yeah.
Like, and that's the goal. So anyways, yeah, I get really passionate about it because it's just soccer is supposed to be the world's game, right? It
Right.
belongs to everyone.
Shouldn't be
And
limited.
yet, yeah, it shouldn't be limited. And
Yeah,
sports in general, right? And so
yeah,
I
yeah,
get
yeah, yeah, for
really
sure.
fired up about inequity and gender inequity within sport because it's an injustice that has been going on for way too long. And yeah, I want to be part of the change. I want to, push for soccer being accessible and available for everyone. So yeah, that gets me really revved up. Sorry if I went on like a little
Nah,
bit of a
nah,
tangent there. Yeah.
nah. It's okay if you passionate about something. Go ahead and show it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So you were talking about that while in school. You wanted to know, exactly what you wanted to do. So you got brought up to this point about women's sports. So how did you get involved in it? Was that like I guess your breakthrough moment? Like, damn, okay, like I want to, this is what I'm passionate about. Let me go ahead and invest my time, energy, and everything like that.
Yeah, so I was still playing while I was in school too. I played some club soccer at UW and also started playing for a semi-pro team up here too. So I was still playing, like I still loved playing, like I still had
Right,
the bug, right? It was still a big
right,
part of my life. Um, but I've always had ankle issues and I had a couple really big ankle injuries while I was up here too. And I was, through that I was realizing like, whoa, like if I can't play anymore, like, what's going to bring me happiness, right? Like what's going to make me feel rewarded every day? Like it
right,
can't just be this because I can't do this forever.
right,
And so I started to coach that team that I was playing for. I stepped in as an assistant for that team and started working at a grassroots club here too, and started to get my coaching licenses because while I was in school as well and I was studying gender inequity, I was kind of like I was fortunate to take some leadership courses as well, and I'm like, I'm looking at myself and I'm like, I've always cared about leadership. It's always come to me pretty naturally. And I love soccer. And I'm like, what's the perfect blend of that?
Right.
It's
Combine the
like
two.
coaching,
Yeah.
right? And I love being
Precisely.
around people. I love instilling values. I love, building community, building belonging with people. And like, so the moment I started to get my licenses and just jump into coaching there, and then I look back too, when we were at UNC, I was able to coach camps over the summers there. And those were some of my favorite times too. And just working with
Hmm.
kids and being able to share the game. And so yeah, it just clicked. I was like, this is what I love. Like,
Right.
so then while I was in school, so I'm at this grassroots club, coaching the semi-pro team, and then I heard from multiple people, like, they knew I was getting into coaching, and they were like, oh, hey, do you know Amy Griffin? Like, have you heard of Rain? And OL Reign is the pro team here in Seattle, the women's pro team. It used to be Seattle Reign. Now they're owned by Olympique Lyonnais,
Hmm.
which is the French club. So now it's OL Reign. And so Amy Griffin was a longtime coach at UW here for the women's program, and she had recently taken over as the director for the OL Reign Academy, so which is the youth academy portion of the women's pro club here.
Hmm.
And they were like, hey, you should talk to Amy, like what she's doing, over at OL Reign Academy, like you would love it, like what they're doing for the the women's game, what they're creating down there, like she's
Hmm.
amazing. You should just check it out, right? Like have a conversation, whatnot. And so ended up kind of like looking through like the staff and their mission, and I'm like, whoa, like this actually looks like something I'd love to be a part of. And
Hmm.
so I got connected with Amy, and of course, like a phone conversation that should probably be what, like maybe 10, 20, 30 minutes turns
Right.
into like a 3 hour conversation. And then that's been our conversations ever since, right? Like I just immediately clicked with Amy, like what we care about in this world, what we care about in people, like how we treat people, our values that like we hold dear to our hearts, like we just click on every level. And yeah, so from there I was went out and trialed a few times and ran a few sessions for them. And yeah, found that they decided that I was a good fit. And yeah, I just feel really really fortunate to be part of academy that is setting a new standard for what women's soccer can look like, but specifically
Hmm.
what youth soccer can look like as well. And it's really cool. I believe in everything that we're doing, and the environment that we're creating. I think it's yeah, it's important that we provide a safe environment that is
Hmm.
also elite. And I think for a long time, now we're getting into to the youth soccer issue. Um, but I think for a long time, it's been, well, if your kid, wants to be the best, well, you have to send them to a coach who's going to break them down completely to the bare bones until they can build themselves back up. And if they can't, then they're not good enough, right?
Right.
Then they shouldn't be playing this sport. Then like, whatever. And it's like, so not only are you neglecting players that don't necessarily fit into that learning style, if you will, but also all the kids that maybe have made it through that, right, and have made it through that coaching philosophy and methodology in that environment. Well, yeah, sure. Did they earn a scholarship? Maybe. Did they win some games? Maybe. Did they win some championships? Maybe. But how much trauma are they now living with the rest of their life because they were abused by coaches, right? Physically,
Yeah.
psychologically, emotionally, verbally, right? How wrong is that? Because now these players are set up long term to have this trauma. And that's not fair. And I
Yeah.
don't think it's the only way. And I don't believe it's the only way. And I truly believe it's the wrong way to set players up and set people up for long term success.
Yeah.
And so I think that we're doing, a fantastic job of setting our players up for, hey, this is what a psychologically safe environment looks like. This is what happens. This is what environment looks like when the coaches care, when your
Yeah.
teammates care, right? When this is a healthy environment, right? This is what it looks like. And then guess what? We're gonna also push you, right? We're gonna also challenge you. That's our job as educators, is to challenge you and push you to be to your next, to the highest level, and highest potential you can possibly reach.
Right.
But we're gonna do it in a way where we care about you. We're going to do it in a way where we respect you.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Like, it's been normalized for too long that, you know, again, parents send their, kids to these coaches, and they're like, yeah, but these coaches, they crank out Division I scholarships, right? They turn these players into pros. So, you know, but then if there's parents who are watching their coach, abuse their child. My question to them is like, if a teacher was speaking to your kid like that, how quickly would you go and burn down that school?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But because it's a coach, oh, well, yeah, they're allowed to do that
Yeah.
because that's been normalized for so long, right? It's been normalized for so long that parents are just completely, um, you know, uh, immune to it, right? They don't even think about it. They just think that that's the way it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
and it's unbelievable, right? Um, so yeah, I get really fired up about that as well because I think it's something that I truly believe there's just so much progress to be done. I think we're doing everything the right way. I think we're setting a standard.
Yeah.
Um, I'm unfortunately reminded pretty consistently that we've got so much progress to go because some opposing coaches we play on the sidelines every weekend. I mean, the behavior that's still accepted and enabled, it's really sad.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm definitely a big advocate for the change in coaching culture and the change in how we treat our athletes, how we treat our kids, and the dropout rate for women's youth sport is crazy. Yeah, it's a problem in male sports as well. Like it's a problem
Mhm.
across the entire landscape, but it's even more of a problem within the women's game. And a lot of that comes from the kind of male dynamic, right? Because coaching as a profession has been dominated by males for a very long time, just
Yeah.
as the sport has, coaching has as well. And there's been that power dynamic that's just been unchecked for so long, right? Unchecked, completely unchecked. And that's where you get recently the NWSL, scandals that have come out about sexual abuse and verbal and emotional abuse at the highest levels in
Yeah.
professional environments, right? But it's because even at the youth levels, in the collegiate levels and the professional levels, that behavior goes unchecked. There's no one checking that behavior and making sure that those athletes are safe, that those coaches are licensed, and that they're properly trained to be able to educate kids and keep them in a safe environment, right? So it can be a little bit of an overwhelming issue to really talk about. But I do believe we're doing everything right at Rain. I believe in our leadership. I'm surrounded by some really just kind, amazing, empathetic, brilliant, I mean, world changers, right? People that just have the drive to like truly make change. And I'm just getting challenged in every way. I'm growing in every way. And I think we're just doing everything right for setting the standard for what youth soccer can look like and what a safe environment can look like, what an elite environment can look like. And I would say majority of our staff is female, which is also really important, right? Because when girls are growing up playing soccer and all they see as their coaches are males, well, I guess coaches are males, right? That's
Yeah.
what goes through their head. But at Rain, right, we've got most of our coaches are females, and it's not about only having females. It's not about only having males, but it's about showing our kids like that it's not gender specific,
Yeah.
right? And that it's not racially specific, that it's about, it's anyone's game. Coaching is anyone's profession. Like you can do anything in this world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really important that we have that. And so yeah, I think we've just got a great staff. We've got a great culture. We've got a great mission. And yeah, I'm excited about where we're heading. And I hope that the standard that we're setting, other clubs are looking at us and we're like, hey man, we've got to make some changes,
Yeah.
you know. And there are
Mm.
changes being made at the structural level. I think the licenses, the US soccer licenses are getting better. There's more HR department involvement across the league, NWSL, and then hopefully at the club level things are starting to change too around the country. But it's a deep rooted problem and deep rooted issue that I'm super passionate about helping to uproot. So
Yeah. And I mean, I'm glad you're shedding light on all this and being as passionate as you are, is because I mean, I'm sure there's people out there right now that internally are thinking the same things you are, but just haven't, verbalized it to anybody. So, I mean, if you doing this and someone else hears that, oh, look, Eric's over there in Seattle talking so passionately about this. Why can't I do that, in Omaha, Nebraska, or in New Jersey or anything like that? So no, like continue having that passion on on an issue that's not really talked about in this country. And I promise you that it's going to turn into you're going to be an inspiration to others for real.
I hope so, and I think
Yeah.
all of our kids will be, right? I
Yeah.
think our kids are getting set up within our culture and community to. I think that I have a lot of faith in the next generation, man. The next generation is so much more aware of all of this stuff, right? And they're passionate about change. They're passionate about activism and speaking up about things that are wrong, which is just really, yeah, that is the one, it's the shining light and all this darkness around
Hmm.
the world right now, right? Is
Yeah.
like the youth is like aware, right? And
Yeah.
they're motivated and they want to make change,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is cool, really cool.
Yeah. So I guess let me ask this then too. You're involved with the academy at OL Reign. Were you involved with the actual team, the senior team?
Yeah, so for the last 2 seasons, I was working as a video analyst.
Okay.
So what that involves is kind of curating video from film, from games and from trainings, and providing the coaching staff what they need to um, you know uh, analyze opponents, right? Or recap training sessions, or pull from
Hmm.
games or whatever it might be. And then so doing some analyzing of opponents, setting them up so that we can then prepare for games. And then it also involves watching the game from at games, watching the game from up top, right? Getting that kind of tactical view,
Yeah.
and ultimately finding trends, identifying trends, and then letting the coaching staff know, hey, here's what I'm seeing. Here's the problems that we're consistently having, right? From that level, because it's easier to see the field, obviously,
Right.
from higher up, right? When you have that tactical view. So it's really just providing the coaching staff with more information, right? So that they can do their jobs and they can implement solutions. And so that was a really cool experience. Being able to work with Laura Harvey, she's one of the most accomplished coaches in the U.S. Here, and certainly probably the most accomplished in the NWSL. And yeah, she's brilliant. Learned a lot under her, Sam Lady, Rocky, just all of our coaching staff.
Hmm.
And Yeah, it was a special experience. I think working with our OL Reign players specifically, they're so motivated in the community, and they're so passionate about other causes outside of soccer.
Hmm.
And the club allows them to speak up about all of that, and encourages and enables them to speak up about all of that, which is really cool and special. And I think that's, again, if you put in the time to kind of research women's sports in general, like women's sports has always not only been about like the game, but also supporting causes that people care about and supporting
Right.
social causes. And they've always been advocates for change. And so just like being part of that, just like in my grad program, like being around people that are so motivated to make change and so passionate about causes that are going to benefit people. And I mean, it's really special, and it's a unique experience. And I want to, as much as possible, share that passion for activism, right, with other people. And be passionate about what I care about, and hopefully
For
that
sure.
inspires other people too. um but yeah, I think the NWSL is growing. It's really
Hmm.
cool to finally see a stable league, because it's the third iteration of a women's pro league here.
Yeah.
Going back to the sandwich analogy, like,
Hmm.
again, people will look at it and be like, wow, people don't care about it, it's failed, right? Again, look at the resources, look at the funding, look at the investment. And now it's actually coming. Look at Angel City down in LA,
Yeah.
right? You're talking about probably the most competitive market in the entire US with the amount of sports teams, the amount of entertainment, the beach, right? Like it is a competitive market to be
Yeah.
successful in. And because they've been properly invested, properly resourced, they've brought in the right people at the table, at the top to make decisions. They've invested in the community and they've been involved in the community. They led the league. I think they led the league in attendance last year. I have to look, but I mean, selling out stadiums in their first year, like they're not doing that just because they showed up,
Right.
right? They're doing that because they were properly funded, properly resourced, right? The players are given the right resources to be
Mm.
successful, like, because it's not just like money towards being in the right stadium. You're talking about bringing in licensed professional staff. You're talking about giving them the proper resources in terms of medical staff, in terms of their recovery, in terms of their preparation and nutrition, right? You're talking about giving them enough money so that they can, be in proper housing and not have to worry about where they're going to live the next year, like whatever it might be, right? The situations that and challenges they've had to live through for so long because they've been underfunded hasn't allowed them to be the best players that they can be because they've been so worried about, you know, paying for their next meal, right? Or
Yeah.
having another job. The whole Brittany Griner thing, was made the women's sports community like livid and wanted people to wake up because it's like, look, she's having to be in Russia because she's not paid enough in the WNBA. Like she has to go over to Russia for the other half of the year in order to pay enough to live, to get paid enough to live, right? To afford living. That is absurd. And that is how the NWSL and women's, pro sports and pro soccer has operated for a long time, was that these athletes are having to do second jobs, right? They're having to go play on the other side of the world for the other 6 months of the year because they're not paid, their contract's not big enough, because it's not guaranteed, because they're not paid enough to be able to afford their own living. They had to live with host families for a very long time, or they had to live in really, poorly designed apartments, right? So I think like, the Angel Cities are showing like, if you invest,
It could be done right.
it's there,
Yeah.
right? The market is there. The market is absolutely there. So like take away like the actual, like morally, it should be, equitable regardless.
Right.
But actually the commercial value is there if you invest. And I think at the end of the day, that's really what, this gender inequity within sport. It's like, you can't even talk about commercial value and attendance and broadcast numbers and all this until there's equal investment, right? Like you cannot compare those numbers until there's equal investment. And I think that the numbers that really speak out when I was doing my studies, it was like, of the $80 billion in sports, money and endorsements all around the globe, like player endorsements, less than 1% goes towards female athletes. Of all the media coverage in the entire world, less than 4% is dedicated to women's sports. And so you can't argue, you can't sit there and say, well, more people want to watch male sports. Like, no one knows about the women's sports because you're not marketing it. You're not telling their stories. It's not everywhere. You're not giving them the proper resources. You're not giving them the proper access, right? And luckily in the US, like Title IX's, helped grant access to women's sports collegiately. And luckily we're a more progressive society than a lot of societies around the globe. But like, even the US has a long way to go. But then you look around the globe and there's still places where women aren't allowed to play sports,
Yeah.
right? Let alone like they don't have access. Like they're literally not allowed. They're not permitted.
Yeah.
And then you got places where they are permitted, but they're not given the access, right? Or they're told to go back into the kitchen, right? And the misogyny is just so deep rooted in so many societies and in sports culture in general. And there's just so much progress to be made. And I think the voices are getting louder and louder. And I think people are more and more aware. But yeah, there's a lot of progress to be made. And I'm very passionate about pushing it forward, and leaving it in a better place than I
For
found
sure.
it, for sure.
Keep doing it too. Keep doing it. Keep being an inspiration, man. But yeah, let me go into wow. I gotta shift gears. We got into some real serious conversations. But that are needed though. That are much needed and long overdue as well. Um, but yeah, let's get into these Instagram questions off of the page. Um, and that'll wrap up the episode real quick. So I mean, one question that's in here that you've pretty much answered, like majority of this episode is what made you get involved with the women's game as opposed to men's game, and I think you answered that one very well with your reasoning behind while in school and getting passionate about gender equality and everything like that. Unless you want to talk about more with
No, I
that,
mean, I think that that's definitely a driving factor, right? Is like,
yeah,
I think soccer should be, equal for all, equitable for all, accessible
for
for
sure,
all. And yeah, I'm definitely super passionate about, trying to sort that injustice, right?
for
Like
sure,
it's wrong, and it's global, and it's deep rooted. And there's a
yeah,
lot of work to be done. So yeah, that's one big reason. I think the other big reason too is like, I think in male locker rooms, I've always struggled dealing with egos, like really big egos.
mm-hmm,
And I think like humility is a really important value for me.
mm-hmm,
And not that egos and big egos don't exist in the women's game, but I think there's less of it. And I mean, just look at leadership around the globe, take away soccer, right? Like leadership around the globe, right? Like, egos within males is just like it's probably why we're in the state of the world that we're in, right? Like, so that's another big reason too, is like I think I fit more within the women's sports space, because
mm-hmm.
it's more collaborative, and it's more of a community, and it's about helping each other get as far as possible rather than
Mm-hmm.
like me versus you, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I love that.
yeah.
So,
Okay. We got one question about what's the rundown on the hair product for you?
oh,
Hey
oh
man, they want to
man.
know. They basically saying you got the perfect hair, man. So they want to know what's the shampoo looking like? What's the is there conditioner, little gel, hairspray? What's going on?
Oh man, am I allowed to ask who that came from? Um, nah, it's what is it? Hans de Fuco, I think it is. But nah, yeah, like there's this like one brand I really like, and I was like,
Okay,
I don't like anything else. Like this is
okay.
like I make sure
If
I
it's
always get
working,
the same one.
exactly.
But I for the course of the winter months, I usually wear a beanie because I'm just like I don't even want to deal with my hair. Like, so I just put a
Yeah,
beanie on
yeah,
for like
yeah,
months.
yeah. Especially how cold it is out in Seattle too in the winter.
Yeah. I made
Yeah,
a
that
bet with
makes
my
sense.
with one of my teams the other day about a goal they scored, whatnot, and they ended up like dyeing my hair purple, and they were all mad because like they dyed my hair purple at the field, but then like I wore a beanie like the next couple because it's freezing. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
so
yeah,
cold,
yeah.
and I
So
was
they
like,
couldn't
man,
see it, huh?
you guys got to be making these bets when it's warmer out,
Yeah. And let's see. This might be. Oh, how about this one? What's Eric's favorite memory from coaching so far?
Mm, mm. Um, that's hard. I'd say like what's really special and unique about our club, and one of my favorite memories is probably like anytime I see our older players interacting with our younger players. And man, it happens so naturally all the time because we're all at the same fields and such. And like there's been a couple times where like we're showing up, maybe we're still setting up the fields or whatnot, and our older players have come up and just been like, "Hey, can we just like play with them for like 20 minutes or 10
Yeah,
minutes?" Or maybe they don't even ask and they just like see a field and they start playing, and like it's just so cool. It's so cool to see that type of community and environment where like they get to you know see girls that are older than them like come up to them and include them and say, "Hey, like you belong here."
yeah,
Right. And it's just like that like warms my heart, man. Like when it's just
yeah,
like that's what we're building, right? Is this community, this collaborative community, and like a place where people can see themselves and belong, right? No matter who they are, no
yeah.
matter where they come from. So yeah, I'd say like those are my favorite favorite memories whenever I see our older players interacting with their younger players, and I see that type of relationship start to
Yeah,
bond. It's really cool.
for sure. Well,
Yeah.
Eric, man, thank you for joining my podcast, talking about a lot of stuff that needed to be talked about and that needs to be put out into this world in some facet. I mean, I know my platform is very little in comparison to, everything else that's out there, but all your words, you're passionate about certain topics, the game. It is going to be an inspiration. I mean, whether it's going to be tomorrow, whether it's going to be 5 years from now, I don't know when, but it's definitely going to inspire some type of conversation that needs to be had. So yeah, no, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining. Thank you for putting in, the energy and passion into the words you were saying.
Yeah, man. No, thanks for having me, and yeah, thanks for sharing the game, Camille. And that's what
Hey
it's
man, I'm
about, just
trying.
growing the game here.
It's a
And
beautiful game, bro. That's all it is. It's a beautiful
full,
game.
yeah, full circle, right? We go like again talking about like thinking about our childhood, like
Yeah.
think about where soccer was at and where it is now in this country, and it's really cool. And again, a lot of progress to be made, but
Yeah,
it's
for
cool
sure.
to at least look back and see that progress, right? And
For
get to know
sure.
that there is progress being made, and that's inspiring to then push forward more, right?
To continue forward, yeah, for sure. For sure,
Yeah,
for
of
sure. But yeah, bro, once again, thank you for joining. Um,
course, man.
we also got 1 and 30 seconds left for the recording. So that was perfect timing. So I'm good with it, man. That was perfect timing. That was perfect timing.